Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another exciting discussion on this glorious day. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I am super thrilled to have a chat with you today. And also with Giovanni. Giovanni's over there playing with, I don't know what he's doing. He's got his bone. So he and I want to talk today about mindful parenting, because mindfulness can benefit absolutely anyone doing whatever they're doing, right? Because mindfulness is about being present. Mindfulness is about just being, and being doesn't take any time or money, actually. And so we can do so many things mindfully. I like to think of, skiing in the woods, which forces me to be mindful, because obviously it's detrimental if you smack into a tree. There's mindful showering, mindfully doing the dishes. Later, I'm going to mindfully plant those plants that are right behind the camera, because they're going to start to look sad pretty soon, because they've been stuck in the boxes. They've been stuck in the boxes because I had my college reunion, which was a blast this weekend, but before that it was just a little too hot for my cheap Irish skin to be out there. So yeah, so I want to talk first about so mindful parenting. That is a topic of discussion. Parenting with greater mindfulness, and super important. So whether your kids are little and super little, I tell you, I just came from the library because I had to go kind of pirate their internet a little bit, because theirs is fast and ours is horribly slow. And there was a mom out there with these. I just loved that stage. She had 4 right in a row, just like we did. And then we had a 5th, but right in a row. And she came out with a stack of library books. She planted herself right on the lawn, and then she had packed a little lunch for them. They were all like maybe 6 down to 1-ish, 6 down to 1.5. I'd say 4 of them, and they had a little picnic luncheon. Just absolutely adorable. So whether that's your stage, or you're in the like more middle childhood ages, like 9 to 12, or teenagers, or young adults going to college, young adults doing something that's other than college, in the military or a trade or working, all good stuff if you're in that range. Or if your children are kind of graduated or worked their way or to the trade schools or military, or working in there, now they're like in their mid and late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We never stop being a parent. I remember that my mother-in-law said that to me eons ago, that once a child is born, they wrap their little hands around your heart, and they're just there to stay. So we don't ever stop being parents, even when they're they have families of their own and they're being successful and they're doing their thing. We don't shut that off, right? You just don't. And so it can help in any way. And then there are many people who may be also grandparents, and so again, mindfulness can benefit absolutely anybody. But when we are talking specifically about parenting here and grandparenting at any stage, just calming the mind down and becoming open to, being still no matter what you're doing. Or maybe you're not, because I'm on the go. But my mind can be still, actually, even with my fast mind, can be still. Again, when I'm in the trees skiing and also teaching, when I fly around the room teaching, it's strange. I'm moving fast, high energy, locked into focus, actually, with the students. People get confused that calm has to mean quiet. No. Calm's sort of the opposite of chaotic, really. And so I can fly around the room with tons of energy. Oh, there's little Giovanni. Tons of energy. I can ski through the trees with also tons of energy and be calm. And because of my fast processing speed, probably, I'm less apt to be calm sitting, crisscross applesauce, as my kids used to say, because that's just like opening every door and window in a house and saying, "Come on in, everybody off the street. The obstetrician who delivered me, everybody." She may not be around still. Oh, maybe, actually. Because that's my mind work. So mindfulness is good for me because, as opposed to other types of meditation, and mindfulness is not always even used as a form of meditation. I'm sorry. Referred to that way. It's mindfulness usually, and then forms of meditation. But sometimes you'll hear mindfulness meditation, and it's different because mindfulness is not about creating a thought vacuum. It's not about creating a thought vacuum at all. And so those of us in the Fast Mind Club you have a better chance of seeing the good Lord himself than creating a thought vacuum in this fast head. So mindfulness is like, for me, it's meditation on the go, and I really like that. The skiing and running, and even the things that aren't necessarily athletic, but the dishwashing, you know, showering, anything, cooking. And so that's what I really like about it. So the birds are chirping wonderfully. It's like a symphony out here. It's so beautiful. And so my inspiration for today is Elaine Snell. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. And she's the author of Sit Still Like a Frog, and it's a mindfulness exercises for kids and parentheses on their parents. And I'll tell you that I have used her book, which has a little CD. It's about $10 total off Amazon, and I've used it for years and years with my students, college students. And I also used it for a few of our kids when they were home in high school. So to me, if you can simplify something to be able to use it for 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, that sign me up, you know, because especially those of us, you know, seasoned grown-ups are flying around doing all kinds of stuff. Young adults flying around all doing all kinds of stuff. And if you're in retirement mode, you may not be flying around. You're probably still doing all kinds of stuff. When you can simplify that to be, you know, to be able to be understood by a young child, man, that's the best. Why complicate things, right? And so the whole idea is about mindfulness is that awareness of being in the present right now. And these birds are great. We actually have a robin nest right there that I did not think had a resident this spring/summer, but I saw her go up there, so she's probably got babies, and it's really pretty cool. So anyway, so one of the biggies is if you're talking about parenting, like, so if you got the little ones, sometimes we think we're listening, right? We think we're being attentive, and it's, you know, you're not listening to you, especially when they're old enough to get that. They get the glaze. They may not like have language for it, but the kids can just feel it. They can also feel when they're being patronized, I think, for sure. Even if they're fine, it just gets the energy. It's an energy thing, right? Just like the rest of us. So you're not listening, or Mom, I've told you a dozen times, you know, well, we might be, you know, I know it definitely happened to me at moments when I'd be reading Dr. Seuss and simultaneously planning what we were going to have for dinner. Like, it happens. And kids don't always pick it up, but they can definitely pick it up at a certain point. And so we want to really make sure, just like we do with our adult friends, to stop what we're doing as much as possible. Set the bar, do your best, right? Because parenting is the most wonderful and the most challenging job in the world. I loved it. I was thankfully the luxury of being home with all 5 of them, and kept my foot in with a little seminar, a little workshop here and there, but I was home 98% of the time, and I'm very grateful for that. And so to really, the active listening, just toss that out there, because kids can tell, you know, they can, even if they don't have language for it, they can tell when they're not being listened to. And I have to tell you, I don't mean to pass judgment on people, and I really don't. I have to say, when I see a mom breastfeeding and she's on her phone at the same time, it's just heartbreaking. That's not judgment. It just kind of saddens me a little bit, you know, because I remember how, talk about mindful, wow, and serene and peaceful, and that whole bonding thing was. And also sometimes, you know, when they've got the baby in the stroller and stuff, I mean, gosh, just put it away, unplug the drug. That time's going to be gone so fast. And we're not saying, like, okay, there's an emergency, all right. But the rest of the time, you know, it's just sad. And those of us who did not have cell phones in that stage of life, like, it all worked out, you know, it all worked out. And so to unplug the drug as much as possible, actively listen, actively be as much as you can. Little ones, if they're 8, 9, 10, 12, they're going to know, right? Teenagers are certainly going to know, because teenagers are good with flipping the bird. You might even get a double flip, because they're not, do as I say, not as I do people, young people, right? When, and I don't want to judge smokers either, you know, but if you smoke and you tell your kid not to smoke, there's a good chance they're not going to listen to you, you know. So the same thing with the technology. So I think we can also model being mindful and being present for our kids. We can even use the words. Kids get it. You obviously have to change your vocabulary as they get older, you know, but really, because they need it. And especially this day and age, you know, with all the, you know, the saturation of media in our society, and all the social media and the social comparison, and these kids, and yeah, I'm sure you probably know, but in case you don't know, this current young adult generation is the most anxious and depressed the United States has ever seen. So now's a really great time to inject some mindfulness in there. And again, it's about being, and being doesn't take any extra time, and it's free, right? Because the other thing is that mindfulness, in addition to being just about being present and being free, from a memory standpoint, also good with parenting and not missing those moments and things, and modeling that for them, is that from a cognitive psychological perspective, as far as long-term memory goes, all that's going to make it to memory is what you're attenuating to. You, our kids, our older parents, you know, maybe you're taking care of parents, I don't know. But that's all that's going to, memory making is what we are attending to. So it's not going to land on the bookshelves of long-term memory if you're on autopilot. There is no bigger thief of autopilot in the whole world. And so the next one is also for us to remember with parenting in different stages. It's all busy. We're even busy now. Out of the 5 kids, thankfully all 5 graduated from college. It was a lot of running back, and it was all enjoyable. The parents' weekends, or family weekends, I guess they call it now. Back and forth, back and forth. We loved every minute of it. And now we're not doing all that, so it's a lot less driving all over the place, right? But it was still busy in its own way. And you're driving down also just to visit and things like that. And also, since we live very rurally, there's a lot of driving to the big city of Burlington, which is about an hour and 10 minutes away, to pick some of them up from the bus back and forth and that stuff. Obviously, the little kid, I loved being home. That stage was so wonderful. You know, not just the nursing, they get a little older, juice boxes and reading books, and they're on your lap a lot and everything. That was the best. And then you're busy after that because they're running around to, you know, t-ball, baseball, you know, all kinds of little things that they're doing, right? And then after that, you know, whatever sports and traveling teams maybe. They may start to play an instrument if you're a musical family, and then you know, again, you really got to grease your rollerblades for middle school and high school. We know with 5, that is definitely my strongest credential, I think, in life. Like, there's definitely, you know, mother of 5, and then the doctorate. I ran a marathon. That might be higher than the doctorate too. It's interesting. One of our deans, my first dean, is she my first dean? I've been to a lot of deans. I've been at Champlain for almost 14 years. Our first dean did not have any of her academic accolades up on the wall. None of it. Doctorate, obviously. And she had her, she had one, if I remember correctly, she had one thing in her frame, and it was her marathon certificate and medal. That's amazing, because she said to me that this is my biggest accomplishment. This is my one big one, you know, and wow. So anyway, I just put that out there too. And I'm a big fan of education, obviously, and I actually loved getting my doctorate. The classes were great. You know, education, obviously, I'm a big fan. I just think that also the life experience matters a lot. And I've also said that to my non-traditional students when I taught at the Community College of Vermont also for a very long time, and I had a lot of mixes, a lot of older folks, and they're mixed in. It's one thing I loved about CCV, Community College of Vermont. And I would say, you know, there are many of us who also have a PhD in life, and you'd watch them just, you know, start to sit up straight and just glow, because, yeah, you know, you raised, you know, a bunch of kids by yourself. You might have battled addiction. It might not have been you with addiction. It might have been your partner, or you know, an adult kid, or God forbid you lose a kid or I mean, by the time you're the ages some of the students were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and higher, you've been through some stuff, right? So, okay, so no matter what stage you are in parenting, what stage you are in life, and grandparenting, so we've got this thing about just being, right? Just being with your grandchild, with your child, with your young adult when they come to visit you, whatever. And to also realize, it's very John Kabat-Zinn, to realize we can't stop the waves. So you may as well learn to surf. He says that a lot. I'm a big fan of JKZ. Actually, I don't think he likes, somebody told me he doesn't like those initials. So retract. Jon Kabat-Zinn. Because I think sometimes when we look at it as everything is it's all extra. Like if I didn't have this, if I didn't have that, and well, that's just going to keep happening. So rather than thinking of it like you're just pulling splinters out all day long, you know, realize that it is like the ocean. The waves are not going to stop moving. So look at it that thoughts are going to keep coming. Thoughts are going to keep coming because the brain is awake 24/7. You say, oh, she must have made a mistake. We're sleeping. You are, but your brain is awake. Obviously, it's on like kind of like sleep mode with a computer because it's conserving energy. But if this fire alarm goes off, you're going to wake up and get out the door. Hopefully, right? And that's because the brain's paying attention. Not just the hearing part, but the processing and making the association with smoke alarm means emergency. Go check it out at least, and may have to get out. And it all happens in a matter of milliseconds. And so the brain's always kind of, waves of thought are always happening. So the minute we sort of get into that acceptance place, for me, when I came to this revelation years ago, that right there took the pressure off. Like if you know the thoughts are going to continually come, you're just continually managing them. Don't think you're going to be done because none of it's ever done. We're walking balls of energy, spiritual beings having a human experience, and it's just, you know, we're going to keep thinking and we're going to keep feeling based on what those thoughts are, okay? And it's going to keep going. And so to learn to surf means to not judge. It's one of my favorite parts of mindfulness. In addition to its meditation on the go, because I'm on the go the majority of the time, I'm able to sit here this long right now because this is very engaging for me. With my dopamine deprived brain, I love this, in case you can't tell. And so to learn to surf means to number one, don't judge it. And that's another reason, again, that I love my mindfulness in addition to the on-the-go part of it, because this is why it works for my wiring. It means to, okay, since we are not creating a thought vacuum and we realize that thoughts come across like waves, that means we don't judge them. It means that if we've had some great success being present, washing the dishes, or listening to a partner, listening to your child, like we're saying, your grandchild, like we're saying, had great success with it, you're reading Dr. Seuss, and all of a sudden, you know, the child's on your lap, or you're with your 9-year-old playing catch or something, and all of a sudden you have an anxious thought roll over, okay? Or you're with your teenager doing something cool, and maybe they're having a big issue, and you're really trying to give it everything you've got, and even like in between them pausing with what they're saying, you get a thought of something at work. And you're like, oh my God, I'm a horrible parent. Her heart's breaking right now. How could, now the thoughts just sort of happen, right? So to really not judge ourselves, or maybe it's an anxious thought, like, oh my God, there goes my anxiety again. You know, and then bringing that onto as into your role of parenting too. Your role as a parent, that, oh my God, and my kids can see me nervous, and that's going to make them, and then they're going to become anxious because they see their mother or father anxious all the time, and all that judgment goes nowhere good. Nothing good comes out of that. So all we say when those thoughts come across is, right, okay, apparently I'm anxious. Let it go. Welcome to the human race. Welcome to the human race. And once we get in the really sort of steady practice of not judging our own thinking, it actually gets easier not to judge the thinking of our children, or to judge ourselves for judging our children, because we start to think, again, these thoughts just fly across our mind. We don't even have time to right? Sometimes it's just, and then we have to say, okay, to wrestle with it, I'm a horrible person thing, or I'm a horrible parent thing because I just had this thought. No, let it go. Thankfully, thoughts are just thoughts, and we are not our thoughts unless we start to kind of allow them to hang around too long and ruminate on them, because we do become what we think about all day long. And so we want to, you know, not do that. So when it first comes across their mind, just dismiss it, let it go. Treat it just like an unwelcomed guest, and just listen to it for a few minutes rather than slamming the door, and then let it continue to walk down the street and visit with somebody else. That's just really how it works. Another thing is just kind of be open to reality. that this is what it is. Even if, because there's, with parenting, as anybody knows who's done it for even this long, there are loads. It's just chock full of just happy, you know, from the little ages when they get their first tooth and they take their first step, and when they say mama and dada. And our oldest son, after those 2 words, his first word was thank you. He said, thank you. And I still to this day think about it. And the first hug they give you, the first time they smile, that goes up through, right? The first time they had success with maybe an activity, a sport, playing an instrument. All those adorable Mother's and Father's Day cards that they do their handprint when they're, I mean, it's just all amazing. And then in high school, they do very cool things. And there's also some really hard things, right? So that's where I'm going with this. And young adults often can make some not so good choices, because we all do, and that's how we learn and grow, or grow and learn, right? And so to realize that this is the reality. You know, my kid didn't make the team. My kid didn't make the dance team. You know, this reality, I'm not going to be able to do that, or I can't afford the vacation this year. And then there's just, you know, there's a lot of bigger stuff, because I don't want to be Debbie Downer and bring everybody down. But there are really big realities. Like, obviously, tragic things can happen. When we have kids, tragic things can happen. And so, and disappointments, regular disappointments, you know, seeing them disappointed is enormously painful. Like the dance team example, they put everything into it, they rehearsed forever, and then they didn't make it, right? And so to really be open to reality, even though that's super, super hard, because we can role model that back to them, how to kind of deal with disappointment and deal with loss, the painful breakups that happen during teenagehood and young adulthood. And because I think it was John Kabat-Zinn who said this too, that the very definition of stress is wanting the present moment to be something other than it is. And that can be a tough sell when we're in it. You know, as parents or not, it's a tough sell, because when you're in the mud, and then somebody might say to you, well, the only way out is through, also a tough sell. It's true, but also a tough sell when we're actually in it, you know, but really to be open to that. So, and then I wasn't going to hold it up, because it's really, this will show you how much I've used it. Look at how crinkly that is. Sitting still like a frog. Mindfulness exercises for kids and their parents. And I said I've used it in Minecraft for years. And I do mindfulness activities in every single class I teach, especially that one. And then presence, understanding, and acceptance. We talked about the present. That's just being. Being in Dr. Seuss, being at the game, being at the play, being just with the conversation that may be just, you know, teenage hearts breaking, young adults not sure what they're doing with their lives, and they're a senior in college, or whatever it is. Just being present is so important. This is all we've got, right? And I don't think there's anything more validating than just being with somebody. You don't even have to talk, really. You know, because it's just, the message of that is, you're the most important person in my life in this moment, and you've got 100% of my attention. Is there anything that's more valuing? Like, we're mirroring their value by showing them how much we value them. So they're getting it. And little kids pick that up, like I said. And you can't be, there's no age for that. You're listening to your 35-year-old who's just lost their job. Who knows, right? And there's nothing more validating than just being present, more loving or kind. And also to understand, right? And I could show you on my table. I don't think if I move the camera, it'll get all messed up. But often when I talk about this in Minecraft, I actually use a table, because they have tables in college, at least at our college anyway. And it literally means to stand under, right? So understand is a word we throw around all the time. But I'll write it on the board. I'll do this, you know, stand under. It's a whole different perspective when you crawl under a table and look up. If you went under that one, you'd probably find a wasp nest just starting to happen. We have to check that all summer long, because then you sit down and yikes. But when we stand under something, it's a whole nother perspective. So if we think that way, and we're with the teenager, ready to just give them all the advice we've accumulated for the last 35, or not 35 maybe. Ooh, that might sound like a bad country song. Yeah, so let's say like, you know, 40s, 50s. I wasn't doing my math there. I was just kind of rattling my point to be made. But teenagers, young adults, or whatever, to really, instead of trying to, think about what we're going to say next, and you know, because we have all this experience, which we do, but instead of coming off of I've got all this advice for you, and it doesn't mean that we're ill-intentioned. We're more than likely very well-intentioned, because we've already been through that pain, and we kind of know that, you know, we want to try to not have them go through it, right? But that's not how it works, right? Really, the listening is the best part, because overprotection really causes them a ton of anxiety later, which is a lot what we're seeing right now, I have to tell you. A lot of bulldozing parents, and meaning well, but really, if they don't fall down and scrape their knee, they don't get stronger. I mean, that's just the truth. I'm going to do another episode on that later. And then we have acceptance, you know, and I think that's another 12-step program, like one-liner slogan. And I'm a big fan of the 12-step programs. I grew up with it, as I think a lot of you know, and one of them was acceptance is the key to most problems. And it doesn't mean be defeated, like give up. It doesn't mean that. It just means that this is my present moment exactly as it is. And once we accept that, though the thing that's going on isn't gone, the intensity is lessened. It's lessened significantly, because that denial, that resistance is no longer there. And it gives us more energy and focus to work with it. So no matter how you cut it up, mindful parenting is the way to go. And the bar really to be set at do your best, because I forget who said that to me early on with the kids. Somebody I don't even know that well. I was at a barbecue in the summer, I think, and we were young parents, my husband and I think we might have had maybe we had 2 or 3 of them. We had them right in a row when we were younger. When we got married at 24 and 25, and kind of got busy right away. And hearing this man who I met, we talked at that thing, is in the end, I mean, in general, life in general, all we can do is do our best. Nobody can do any more than their best. Nobody. And parents, we have this, it's obviously it's in the contract to put your kids first and everything. And there's obviously the minute these wonderful little creatures, you hold them in your arms, you can't even put words to how great that is, right? And it's just amazing. And you would do anything to protect them, and anything for them, and you just want them to be safe and loved and happy and all of it. And the point is, that said, just all we can do is our best with all of it. All we can do is our absolute 100% best, no more, no less. So I think and we can also adjust that bar, which is why I like that. Like, our best is going to be different. Like reading Dr. Seuss or whatever, if mom's got a cold, or dad's, had to work a double or something, got home and he's exhausted, to kind of, or if you accidentally snap. I mean, who doesn't have a moment when you snap in life in general? You're like, I know I said I'd read Dr. Seuss, or make it a different age. I know I said I'd listen about the boyfriend, honey, and she's in 8th grade, whatever. To do your best, to listen the best you can. And cut yourself a little bit of slack, because this is a good time to talk about Donald Winnicott. Now we're going to hang up here. Donald Winnicott, back in the 50s, did some research on the good enough mother. And of course, it's the 50s. And so now we'd say the good enough parent, probably. But in the end, as far as, he's a big fan of do your best too, because statistically speaking, the kids who ended up the happiest and most successful when they had the good enough parent, right? That means just that. If you went to most of the Little League games, you went to most of the open houses at school, you were there most of the time, and you were there after the bus as much as you could be. You listened to the best of your ability. You had little friends come over. You took little friends home. You, later on, as the young adults, you went, took them to their college, admissions tours. You took them to, you listened about their new job. You listened to, and you talked them through their first tour of duty in the military or whatever. That you just, did your best. And you're not, when you have the flu, you're sick, you're exhausted, you just got off of work or something, maybe you had a super stressful ride home in traffic, you did your best. Just, really just let it go. And Realize that the more mindful you can be as a person, because it's just in general, you'll be less reactive with everybody at work and with yourself, less judgmental. And the thing is, with parenting, what's different is we're less reactive with kids, which is great. And we're also role modeling, because we can say anything we want to. Anybody who's a parent knows we can say whatever we want to with the best, biggest heart, right? But it's what we do that they remember, and no matter how old they are, right up through whatever age. So if you can role model being present, that calmness will leak out of you. The non-judgment will leak out of you. The resilience will leak out of you, because that's that ocean thing, right? The waves are going to keep coming. That's life. We learn to surf. So there's the resilience piece. And then there'll be much more of a chance for enjoying your life and living your best life, because with mindfulness, the next level of that is savoring. So really, we're role modeling, savoring our kids, savoring the hot chocolate with the kids, savoring the sledding with the kids, savoring the driving in the car with the young adults and the teenagers, saving the watching a movie together. It's all good. It's all good. So mindful parenting is the way to go. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from my back deck in northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.